Baddies, not a baddies, a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bad Minutes!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minutes of the Phantasm. This is the podcast where we flatten the ass of each minute of Batman Mask of the Phantasm, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And I am your other host, John Parker, and together we make up your two hosts, sucker clowns.
Well, I mean, I have no follow-up to that. That sounds, that was about as good as I was going to get.
See you, everybody.
But again, we're joined for the final time this week by the same two people who were with us on Monday and Wednesday. It's Rob and Austin. Hey guys.
Hey-o.
On your stomachs, arms spread.
That sounded simultaneously like, it's a pretty good impression, but also sounded like an old G.I. Joe toy I had back when
totally. Just like it sounded like somebody just pulled a string.
I remember one time when I had one that was like, it was a cop, and it used to say, "Stop or I'll shoot." And I put it under, like I was playing in the sink one time, put it under the water, and it broke it somehow but I thought it would just completely banjax it, but no, it got stuck saying, "Stop or I'll shoot, stop or I'll shoot, stop or I'll shoot." And it just drove my parents mental, so they threw it out in the garage, which is where the back door was. And my brother came home pissed, like, that night. And just came into the garage and was like, "What the fuck?" Like, he just thought someone was in there yelling at him.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
You've just unlocked a memory for me, Niall, actually, because I went to my dad's like company Christmas do party type thing when I was a kid, and they had presents for all the kids, and there were all these cheap Chinese toys.
Yeah.
And the one I got was like this crazy looking laser machine gun type thing, and when you pressed the trigger, a voice would come on that said, "Stop, drop your gun," even as the gun was firing. And I remember my mum remarking, just being like, "Whoever bought that doesn't have children." But what I loved about it was that it kind of sort of looked like Mr. Freeze's gun from Batman and Robin. So I would always pretend that it was that.
Ah.
Wow.
Oh, you talk about the sound you were saying earlier in the week, Austin, about like the joy of hearing something like the Foley work, some of the sound effects they put in, and that Mr. Freeze gun is just the coolest sounding, like because the thing in Batman and Robin, they do a great job with the special effect that actually still stands. Like, no, that Freeze Ray looks great to me.
Yeah.
But the actual sounds, like, you should have just got the sound from the cartoon because it sounds so much cooler. But But yeah, we talked about Batman and Robin a lot already, so we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about minute 12 of Mask of the
Don't be such a batty pooper.
I miss that accent.
Oh man. The thing now is, for so many years it was just like, oh yeah, I think I do Batman and Robin someday, and now it is like, oh, I miss doing Batman and Robin. That was a really crazy movie.
I told you it was good.
But anyway, this minute is minute 12, and it opens with a bellow from above. See, I did the bellow above.
Very nice.
Very nice. Ends a minute later with some criminal escapades.
I like it.
I will say though, before we jump in this minute, because I have to bring it up now because it's been bugging me, because I meant to mention it last week, and then I didn't. I meant to mention it the first 2 minutes, and I just slipped my mind both times. But
so you're a fool, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. But there's just in Bruce's meeting Andrea. Of course, she came back in the comics, a couple years later in a cancelled comic line in 2003, 2004. But there's some stuff I'll tell you guys off mic, because the stuff we'll save for later in the seasons. Thank God it got cancelled. Is all I'll say. Where they're planning to go with it.
Wow,
but
interesting.
Yeah, but she shows up at Wayne Manor to tell Bruce stuff because she's part of Phantasm's been ushered into the False Face Society led by Black Mask and stuff, and she just shows up at Wayne Manor. Alfred's just let her in. And just Bruce's reaction when he sees her is he just has a stoic look, and he says, Alfred, go get that device that tells us if someone is a Clayface, a Martian, or a robot.
Clayface.
And Alfred's just like, right away, sir. And then goes off to it. But I just love that as a little, like, yeah, I mentioned it to someone, and they were like, I can't imagine Kevin Conroy saying that. And I was like, I don't know, just Justice League territory, Kevin Conroy. Okay.
Yeah, they gave him a lot of crap to say in those animated movies later on. I could see him saying that, unfortunately.
Yeah. But just to bring it up, because it was such a good point to be like, when he meets Andrea, bring up this thing. And then every episode, I forgot to be like, oh, yeah, that one panel. So, but yeah. Talking about Bruce saying things, I don't know, like, he jumps into action here with a...
it's amazing.
It's something. I don't know. I'm glad that later on as Batman, he decides to, like, you know what? Just keep it silent, I guess, maybe.
But this is like... This scene of showing him jumping out and confronting these guys is like, it's like having a celebrity on a talk show and showing a clip of them before they were famous. You know? This is like, you know, Batman has to sit there and go, oh my God, what was I thinking? I had no costume, and like, on your stomachs, arms spread. You know, who says that? You know, and it's just like so cringe.
For a second there, I thought you were like referencing like Nick Cage that time he was on Terry Wogan and just came out in the leather jacket, like kicking the air.
Oh, classic moment. Yes.
I think because it's the Irish week on this show, Austin, we can bring up the famous Boyzone clip on the Late Late Show. It was like the first ever appearance of the Irish boy band Boyzone, and they had this disastrous first appearance on the Late Late Show. And you can look it up on YouTube, and they were just dancing and lip syncing, and it was just a mess. And at the end of it, the host, Gay Byrne, who was his legendary Irish broadcaster, just goes, yeah, we'll see you when you're famous, as if to say, you'll never be famous. And they play it every time Boyzone come back.
That's amazing. Holy crap. How did I not know about this? Because Boyzone was so big here.
Keith Duffy got really pissed off about it being played, and like made a good point about, it's like, why do you play that clip every time I come on and I can't be like, it's just like it's haunting him, and it's just like, you gotta, you know, at first you're like, oh, why are you so, you know, angry about it? And it's like, yeah, I'd hate that too.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's one of the most graphic crotch grabs ever seen. Just see the action. It's just basically just gene and bulge in a hand. That's all you can see for it. The thing is, like I mentioned in the Den where they showed Batman the animated series, you used to get in Boyzone. They crammed them into the tiny studio. Yeah. Basically, the Den set was a desk. It was a desk with two puppets in front of it, and not even a big desk. And like, and then they'd always get in like Boyzone just crammed in, like big, massive worldwide celebrities, and then they just have like a puppet of a dirty, greasy turkey spitting at them and insulting them to their faces, and then delaying showing Angry Beavers by about 20 minutes because they just get so into doing that.
I think your timeline is a little bit off there, Niall. I think they'd be delaying showing like the Aladdin animated series, or like Real Monsters was probably when Boyzone were famous.
Again, at that age, both things I'd rather be watching than Boyzone.
True enough.
Get to the cartoons.
That's crazy. How could you not? Like, I mean, I used to watch The Den as like a program in itself, and then I would just be like waiting for the cartoons to end. Like, obviously if it was Batman the animated series, I'd be like, we're in, brilliant. But like there was a lot of rubbish on as well, and I would just be like, I used to tape The Den and then be able to skip all the ads and any of the cartoons I didn't like, and it was heaven, because like they gave up. I'm so glad we're talking about The Den, by the way, again. But they just gave up on even mentioning what programs were, and they just what programs were on next, and they just used to do sketches in between, and they used to like clear out the studio, and you just cut back to the studio, and it would just be Zig talking to like a possessed puppet, and like obviously Zig is also a puppet, but in the story the other puppet, and blah blah. That became Podge and Raj, those other weird puppets. But like, and they had all these storylines, and then they would just do stunts. Like they had Zig, who didn't have legs as a puppet in the way he was made, suddenly one day standing on the desk and being bold and not coming down, and they made legs and shoes for him and everything, and it was just like, I was just gripped to the television. It was like, this is the greatest moment of television history. And then you'd like you switch over during the ads and it'd be BBC. You'd have Ed the Duck, and like to take the piss out of children's BBC, all Zig and Zag had to do was just shout the words Ed the Duck, and they would just laugh. They would just laugh because they knew they were so far ahead. Like, it was just brilliant.
I mean, again, to paint the picture for people, like they'd have a recurring thing of they had a villain called Ted, which was just a big teddy bear. And they'd have the host, Ray Darcy, who's like dignified, elder statesman radio broadcaster now. And all they did was just chuck a teddy bear at him, and he'd have to play fight it like he was in friggin' Bride of the Atom or something, and it was an octopus.
And they'd build it up all week. They'd be like, "Oh God, we're on lockdown this week because we hear that he's escaped and all." And they'd build up the tension, and then suddenly he'd appear, and he'd be like, "Oh!"
And it was just like, you could see how physically exhausted Ray Darcy was every time I have to throw himself around. And then
I remember he had like a scar on his face one time because of a battle scar he got from Ted. Like,
you see, like you throw it off camera, and you're like, "That's that done," and then someone behind the camera just throw it back in, and you have to do it all over again, like 3 or 4 times. It was brilliant.
Oh, we've got to find clips of this for people.
We get Bruce Wayne, and speaking of Irish things too, showing up for his audition for the IRA here, putting on his.
I was thinking it, but I didn't want to be the one to say.
The iconic black balaclava of the provisional IRA.
I think it's too. I looked up just to see, like, I get some notes on balaclavas, and I was devastated to find out on the Wikipedia. They call it uses for balaclava, and they mentioned like British Army using it here, there, and everywhere, and in different countries. No mention of the IRA.
What? The most iconic use of it, right?
Yeah,
the Brits are at it again.
The Brits are at it again. I love it.
We went in and we deleted all of your info off there.
Excellent.
Were you at wikipedia.co.uk?
It's gone. So we're going to have to go back on the Wikipedia and just go like, well, the balaclava is most synonymous with... Yeah.
Is it just because...
Oh my God, you've just reminded me, Niall, when we were kids and around the time the Spider-Man cartoon was really, really big, my nana came home from Canada and she'd been, my cousins over there, it was snowing, skiing and all that stuff. She bought us balaclavas while she was there. And she bought them because we liked Spider-Man and we were like, "Oh, let's play Spider-Man or whatever." And me and my brother were running around the estate playing Spider-Man in our balaclavas. And then we left them in the porch one day. And someone came to the house. I think it was like a builder. He was doing a job in the house or something like that. And there was just these 2 balaclavas in the porch. And he was going, "What the?" And my mum had to come to the door and be like, "Oh, no, it's just my kids. It's fine. It's not the IRA."
Honest.
That
and
guy
this was before, like, the troubles were still going at that stage. It's crazy.
That guy's still, that builder still to this day is probably like, I remember walking the blade porch, but just left the balaclavas lying out as if I wouldn't know what was happening.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But this is one of the things, though, because they, of course, reference this in Batman Begins when he's,
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because at this point, I guess, in Bruce's career, what Massive Phantasm really does seem to set up is in BTAS, you never find out exactly why bats and stuff. And it seems as we're supposed to take it from this movie, we'll get to the scene eventually, it is from the bats coming out of the ground once he's proposed to Andrea and stuff. And so, at least in Batman Begins, it's kind of like he goes out with the balaclava, but he already has everything in mind. He just can't wait to go. He just needs to get out there already. But this is really like, this Bruce has no idea what his motif is. He has no idea what he's doing. It is just like, the thing is too, it's like he just looks like the rest of them as well. They're probably wearing balaclavas, so they're probably like, "Craig, is that you, asshole? Like, get the out of here! What are you doing? Like, what the hell's this thing?" Like, it's such an odd thing where he's just like, for a man who's all into planning, he really had no idea what he was doing here.
Yeah, but I think this scene does such a good job of it with the blocking and with the pace of it and with the looking at the reaction shots of the thing. It's like before they start taking the piss, it's going to go badly because you're just like, that's a really weak opening. You just showed yourself completely and said, and didn't brandish any weapon and just said, down on the floor basically. And it's just like, this is rubbish, and then it is rubbish. And they're like, we're shaking in our boots or whatever. And I just think it's so well done because you're just like, because you just kind of cringe for him. You're like, "Oh no, Bruce, you need a cowl, you need some ropes, you need grappling."
I think Austin, I definitely agree in terms of the scene in and of itself. It is very well executed, and for the purposes of the movie, like, it does preempt the whole notion that he hasn't figured out what he wants to do yet. He doesn't know what Batman is. We see that bit of him jotting down kind of a Phantom type looking character later on with a cape, and then he scribbles it out. So we know that he hasn't figured the Bat motif out yet. For me, the problem is less to do with this movie, and it's more just the world that they set up in the animated series, where he like appears out of nowhere and he's using all these ninja techniques, and we literally see him in one episode, like there's a flashback to his ninja training and all that. So that just doesn't really line up with this, where he's just running into the scene of the crime like a toddler hopped up on sugar, screaming, going like, I just don't think he'd do that, you know?
Yeah.
I think in this movie it makes sense, but when you try and marry it with the other stuff, you're like, that doesn't really work.
I get that. But maybe he's thinking like it's an intimidation thing. Like, if one guy is willing to jump down and scream.
Well, we haven't mentioned that.
Exactly. If someone did that, I mean, you would be like, oh, he's got to be tough, I guess.
Although you think that, John, but apparently no. They're just
Yeah, they don't think that, do they? They just go, "Who's
you want to
this
get
clown?"
nuts?
Yeah. I guess but it is all again. You know, they pointed out in Batman Begins, like it's the theatricality of it. You need one of the best scenes in that movie is you don't even see Batman. It's just like the Scarecrow doing stuff in the basement of Arkham, and hearing and him being like, "What's that?" It's like, it's the Batman. Like it's
true
amazing.
what they say. Can he really fly?
Far too good at voices.
Speaking of Irish Week on Batman, that film is littered with Irish actors.
That guy's from Fair. That's Paul from Fair City who says,
Is it true what they say? Can he really fly?
The guy who says, "Where are you?" and then Batman says, "Here." He's an Irish actor, and I ran into him on the street one time when we were filming a little student superhero movie one time. He happened to just wander by, and he was like, "Oh, I'm an actor," and we were like, "Oh, have you been in anything we've ever seen?" He was like, "Oh yeah, I was in Batman Begins." I was like, "What scene?" He was like, "Oh, you know the one." I was like, "What? Seriously?"
Holy moly. That's what I wouldn't believe if I was just like, no fucking way is that you. No way. Oh my God. But I wouldn't turn into John Travolta there for a second. Like, No. I would mention though, actually, speaking of Dana Delaney, have you either of you guys watched Tulsa King yet?
No.
Is that's the one with Stallone?
It's the Sylvester Stallone's new show is Tulsa King. He plays like a gangster who's kind of exiled to Tulsa, and he ends up starting a whole lot. It's a very dad show. My dad loves it, and I put it on for him knowing he would love it, and he fell into the trap, hook, line, and sinker. And every week I'm like, "When's season 2 starting?"
You fool! Now you are entertained and enjoying yourself.
But the thing is, the bad guy, and Dana Delaney's in there. She's very, kind of like she's character's growing in stature as it goes. But the main villain is the Chechen from The Dark Knight. Listen to the clown. He's right. But he's doing a Northern Irish accent. So he's like, "That's right, son, I'm here now to take you down, hey." And it's just like, I was watching, like, I didn't know he wasn't Chechen. I was just like, I assumed that's where he was from. And now he's bald, and he's speaking in a thick Northern Irish accent. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And my dad's just watching it, loving it. And I'm just like, this is way too distracting for me.
Is he good?
He is good. No, I would never have known that. Apparently, he's English. Okay. But apparently, I would never have known he wasn't Northern Irish. So, but then at the same time, I didn't know he wasn't Chechen. So I guess he's just got the way with accents.
A guy says, well, the criminal is stealing stuff. He's like, "Let's blow this pop stand."
Yeah.
Now, I thought to myself, isn't it usually popsicle stand, or am I just thinking of that amazing Mr. Burns line where he says, "Let's blow this fascist popsicle stand"?
That's my immediate thought is the Mr. Burns line as well.
"Let's blow this popsicle stand" is a popular old-fashioned phrase. "Let's blow this pop stand" is exclusive to Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
It is, right? That makes no sense to me at all.
I don't know. It feels like that to me. I've heard "Let's blow this popsicle stand" loads of times. I've never heard this outside of it.
See, I looked into it, and I was trying to say, you're bound to be able to trace the etymology of this because it's such a specific phrase. And no, but someone on what we call Quora, they say that this would be like my friend said he knew a guy kind of thing. But he's like, someone will be able to tell you this specific film in here, I'm sure. But apparently it's originally from a Humphrey Bogart movie where he's getting chucked out of a bar and he's complaining about the drink being so weak, and he goes like, "Let's blow this pop stand." As if like the drink is basically the strength of pop.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then it just got warped, entered into the popular vernacular, and then got warped into popsicle, I guess. But I would have assumed like it would have been a thing that would come from like Prohibition, because then I guess it used to be like, let's blow this joint, which would be like a gin joint. Yeah. And then they would be like, oh, Prohibition would go, oh, we're at the pop stand having a drink. It's like, let's blow this pop stand. Like, I assumed that would be where it come from. I have no basis for that beyond assuming that's what it was. But
yeah, because America did that Prohibition thing and they had old-fashioned words. Yeah, I see how you'd connect those dots. Yeah. Right. But so you've heard pop stand before, have you?
I think I've heard it around. I think I've heard variations of it, like, but I've heard get called completely other, like, again, fascist popsicle stand was the one that always stood out to me.
That's amazing.
Hey, pop stand is more of a Strabane expression.
I love the way Batman, or whatever, proto Batman here at the end, after he like wins, goes, yes,
yeah,
and it's just like that's so. Again, to what you were saying, Rob, it doesn't kind of match the canon with like him already having trained under ninjutsu, but for what they're going for here, it's just so like it's like the SWATs in the class, like when the teacher calls out the answer to the maths questions, and they need to prove to everyone that they got it right, so they go, yes.
Like, and even going back to the voice that Conroy is using, going back to the start of the week there, because when he comes out and he's on your stomachs, arms spread, and then like, oh, who was this clown? And like, you heard me. Like, it's got a real nebbishness to it. It's like, it really is. Like, he's not in the mindset, so he's not doing the voice. Like, it's once he nails the voice, like when Kevin Conroy himself stepped into the studio, and he has obviously that great comic he wrote there like last year about finding and channeling all his pain into the Bruce Wayne voice and stuff.
Wow,
it's really like, it's just I like again too. He's like, no, he wouldn't be there yet. He has to, like, the things have to slot into place yet, and so when he comes out, even his commanding voice isn't that impressive.
Not there yet.
It just has a bit of a kind of like, he sounds like a bit of a dweeb almost in a weird way.
And that little was like, he seemed surprised at himself that he pulled it off. He's like, oh yeah, awesome, I won.
Yes, it worked. I'm Batman now.
Yeah.
It's like when you're playing the combat challenges in the Arkham Asylum games.
Oh,
and you find it harder.
It is a bit like that.
I should mention though, before we get to the within the fight, of course, Bruce knocks out, he takes out all these guys with relative ease. But I love the little nod, though, at around, say, 30 seconds or so. He does a full body, like, punch, and you see the guy, there's a little flash, and the guy goes flying. And it's identical to the opening of the cartoon. Like, you're expecting, like,
yes, I noticed that as well. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So because like, you see he's getting there, but it's like, and that's like, it's the beginning. That's kind of like the whole scenario is a bit like the, there was obviously two robbers escaping, but then that Batman comes out of nowhere and he's silent. He just gives them the squint, and then of course he takes out a batarang. Bruce here takes out a thing and flings it at them. Has a fight, and then that exact same. The exact same punch and the exact same angle, the criminal flying towards the camera and stuff. And
is this where it does that cool visual effect that I found quite interesting, where when he punches them, it like flashes white?
Yeah. Which is weird, because that happens in '89 as well, when he's fighting, well, not Bob, but like, the other goons. And it's supposed to kind of take this Vicky Vale taking photographs. And I think we interpreted it at the time as like, maybe it's like a little homage to the '60s show of like, zap, bam, bow, the little flashes coming up with each punch and stuff. But
I know in the actual animated series, they were told that they had to add in those flashes to soften the violence, if that makes sense.
Right.
So instead of seeing the punch land, they'd show a flash of white so that you didn't actually see the punch land, and it was less violent that way.
Right, okay. That's wild to me. I get where they're coming from, but to me, that flash emphasizes the power of the blow.
Yeah.
But it probably emphasizes it in a more figurative, less realistic way. And I think that's what they kind of usually go for on TV censorship. It's not that they want to tell a less violent story. It's they just want the visceral aspect of it and the realistic aspect. Like you want to think about bam, a punch in the face. You don't want to think about, an actual fist pushing the muscles in the face and deforming the face as it follows through and stuff.
That's true.
And what's interesting is that one of the later animated movies, Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, which is probably my second favorite of all these, there was an uncut version, and they actually took out a lot of the white flashes, and you can see the punches land a bit more.
Wow.
So that's why it's interesting that they're even in this at all. Because this is theatrical, and they didn't really have the kind of restrictions.
Yeah. Later on, you see like a tooth leave the Joker's face as he gets kicked in the chin. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Something I actually found interesting about that flash, though, is that my initial thought was, it's to show the power and the power of the hero. But they don't just save it for hero emphasis. When one of the bad guys hits Bruce, it does it as well. I found that very interesting. It wasn't just to, highlight how strong Bruce is.
Yeah.
That's what you'd often do for your heroic character.
Yeah, you build him up as
a good light.
He's so strong. White flashes happens when he's
yeah. But that was quite a cool move. I thought, like, oh no, Bruce is in danger. He even gets jumped from behind, and he's about to get choked out, which is proper wrestling style because it's a sleeper hold. That's Roddy Piper's finishing move.
That's Roddy after he left the WWF, and he just needed VCR. Like it's times are tough,
Don't blame him. He needs to rewatch They Live 50 times over.
Well, he needed to give all his friends VCR so they could watch They Live and get the word going again.
Straight after he's beaten all the guys, and the guy takes out the shotgun and starts blasting the shotgun. I only noticed this because I was rewatching this same minute a number of times, but Bruce suddenly gets super speed because the guy who's tied up against the wall, Bruce reacts to the shotgun fire and like super speeds over to him and runs him out of the way.
Yeah.
It's really strange. And like, it wasn't just me who noticed it. My girlfriend, when we were watching this in the cinema, she was like, what happened just there? Batman just like super, like the flashed out of the way. It's really weird. It's about 50 seconds in, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. He just like moves at like faster than a speeding bullet all of a sudden.
I don't know, maybe
he picks the guy up in that one swift motion that's just like, yeah. It's like the Jedis at the start of Phantom Menace doing their super speed and then never doing it again.
No. So like, well, what's the point of doing all those push-ups if you can't lift the security guard out of the way in super speed?
Alfred, come and look at this. No, perfectly fine. Thanks very much, Master Bruce. Love that line.
Oh, God.
But we'll also say, too, just the hop back on the costume, actually, again, for a second, because it's just like, it really is like thank God that this guy found like a better costume to go with as well, because like again too, when they call like hey, it's Mr. Kung Fu, you really are wondering, like, what was he? Does he have any kind of opening lines where it's going to be like, was he going to be like, yeah, I'm vengeance, or did he have any? What was he people going to say about him? Were they going to be like, yeah,
he's going to say, I am Mr. Kung Fu.
Yeah. Oh. It's like, no, we heard about you as Mr. Kung Fu. Yeah. Oh my God.
Now, as a kid, when they said Mr. Kung Fu, I assumed that was just a generic, well, he's doing a bit of Kung Fu, therefore Mr. Kung Fu. But now watching it now, I'm like, were they doing a little reference there to the David Carradine Kung Fu show from the 70s?
Oh,
could be.
I don't think so. I think it's just Mr. Kung Fu. I don't know.
But speaking of the past, though, this season, because this is based on a cartoon show from our own childhoods, we have been asking the guests like what their favorite cartoon back in the day actually was. So like obviously beyond BTAS, because like that would be the obvious answer for a lot of people. But like,
yes,
some of you guys again have access to the plethora of Irish cartoons that were on, like Tír na Hoige and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if you liked any of it.
God, was that what that one was called? Was that the Irish language one where there was like a Superman baby and a Batman baby?
Tír na Hoige. Yeah,
I think I was annoyed because I was a kid. Couldn't understand what they were saying, but it was always like watching it, just like, what is happening in this? Yeah. Like, and it was the whole thing was like the city in the clouds that was inhabited by babies, and there was like a Humphrey Bogart baby, and there was like a femme fatale baby, and one of the things in the opening titles was a close up of like a sexy, like it was supposed to be like the sultry, sexy like character.
That's weird,
but it's a baby, and it's like, what is this? Like, There's a real close up of the butt and stuff. I was like,
yeah, that's not cool. I'm not on board with that.
no. But there was always
Really,
there's some baby with a beard who was dressed in red. And I was like, I guess he's the bad guy. And yeah, it was really like, and still to this day, no idea what was going on in that show. But that was it was just like the one Irish language cartoon to throw on Network 2 in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
Well, having worked on many shows in the Irish language in this country, I can tell you what happened there, because anyway. What happened there was they obviously got some weird, cheap Eastern European cartoon and dubbed it in Irish. And I know this because I did the voice for one of those, and it ended up never airing because it was so bad. But luckily, I'm glad to say one of my favorite cartoons that had nothing to do with superheroes from the 90s also involved babies, but was a million times better than what you just described. Rugrats, obviously.
Oh, of course. Classic.
I feel like the 90s, it's an easy one because like there genuinely was very, very good cartoons in the 90s. Like Animaniacs was excellent. Rugrats was great. Hey Arnold is an excellent cartoon.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Doug is fucking amazing. Like I can still watch that today.
Yeah.
Like they're all great.
I actually think I would like Doug and Hey Arnold more now, if anything.
Yeah. You probably appreciate it more in terms of like
big time.
Yeah. I actually did watch an episode of Rugrats because our friend of the show, Sean German, over Christmas, or actually over Hanukkah specifically, he was doing like 8 nights, 8 TV specials about Hanukkah, and only about 2 of them were about Hanukkah because there's no representation of it on TV at all. But the one that was really heavily about Hanukkah was the Rugrats one. And it was amazing because the amount of the education I got about Hanukkah from an episode of Rugrats I watched at age 35 was like, I never knew any of this.
Because they go into the whole history of it and stuff.
Yeah,
it's great.
you go
some Passover and everything.
Yeah,
Right.
and but it was also still really funny because the adult characters were always genuinely funny. And then, occasionally the babies just having misunderstandings was just like, yeah, this all works. Angelica's still a great character. And as I remember, I think Sean, when he was covering it, he kept calling her like Angela. And I was like, don't you dare disrespect TV icon Angelica Pickles. All right, her name is Angelica, for Christ's sake.
Get it right, you piece of trash.
Literally every time the herb or herb debate comes up, I always reference that. I think it's literally that episode, the Hanukkah episode, where Steve is like, or what's his name? Stu Pickles is like, a lot of people say herb, Dee.
Because it is herb, Americans. Get it right.
Like Rugrats was one that I was like, I would say, oh, that's cool animation, and I'm, it looks like a good show and stuff, but it just didn't. I was just that bit too old. I'm the old man here.
I think that's the same as my brother, who I get like a lot of my taste comes from things he showed me.
Yeah.
And I would mention Rugrats to him today, and he'd be like, looked like the creepiest, weirdest thing. I never liked it. I don't have any idea why you kids like that. It looked awful.
Oh, really? No, yeah. I always liked the look of it, but I just didn't, I wasn't watching, something that was aimed at that age group at that time, But but Rugrats connects to a very different thing, but you can actually, when you put them side by side, you can really see the similarities in the animation. Aeon Flux on MTV, totally different like character model style, but some of the actual way the movement goes and some of the like weird kind of close-ups and like fisheye angles and stuff you will see in both, and you're like, yeah, you just never, because it's the same. One of the head animators on Rugrats went on to make Aeon Flux, and he was the series creator of it and stuff. And so that was like part of this MTV, which is not the kids cartoon thing. It's not, but it was like an important kind of part of my 90s was the this, like, when MTV started, branching out into, funding other kind of programs and stuff. And it was in a slot in the US called Liquid Television, but we didn't have that on MTV Europe, but we had the things on it. So it was like the Head, the Max, Aeon Flux. And for me, Aeon Flux was the best of them. But I had a friend of mine who really got into the Max, and it had this whole, this whole mythology to it and everything that I never kind of dug into. But yeah, that was a really cool kind of scene, and you felt you were getting something kind of like fresh and weird and different. And
the thing is, you're reviving sparks of jealousy in me, Austin, though, because I didn't get Sky TV until 2002.
Yeah. I see. Yeah.
I remember we had they sell compilation tapes of Beavis and Butthead. And I remember the start them always having ads for Aeon Flux and the Head and been what is this? This looks amazing. And I was like, not on TV where you can get at it, so it's off.
Well, we didn't have the full package or anything. We had a weird thing. It was like, just to give context for the TV landscape of Ireland, that our international audience will be fascinated by, I'm sure, is that in Ireland we had just RTE1 and RTE2 for years, and during that time there was like the BBC's remit, being, the United Kingdom, had to cover all of Northern Ireland. So anybody who lived near the border could just get BBC Northern Ireland and UTV, ITV, whatever, and Channel 4. And so then a booster network was set up so that all these people who just out of their own pocket, just, and just like by gathering up, everyone chip in and will buy like a bit of land, and we'll buy a giant aerial, and we'll do a relay system to take all the English TV channels and they covered the whole country illegally.
Amazing. I never knew this.
Yeah, illegally and voluntarily, and just done as like a community project. And you could get
done as an act of spite.
Done as a middle finger to the Brits, and we'll steal their telly. And so, if you were living in cities, you could have cable link, you could have, cable TV, and that would be like an official way to get BBC and you get those channels. But like out in the country, we just didn't have service. So the gap was filled by people who were just, enterprising. And so so my dad just came home one day with an aerial. I'd be like, well, how will that get, it has to be a pretty big aerial to get English TV. And he explained to me this booster system they have. So the whole world of like UK TV was opened up to us by just having, I don't know, 40 euros for an aerial, and then go up on the roof yourself and put it on.
That's awesome.
But then,
amazing.
As Ireland became like a real country later into the 90s, we had to be like, the booster system was shut down, and to fill the gap in rural Ireland, we had microwave transmission of TV, and like, yes, it was on the same frequency as microwave ovens, and yes, when you put your microwave on, it would interfere.
Oh my god!
But the telly. But it was generally a very good signal, and just don't turn on the microwave during The Simpsons, But it was like it was just the RTE channels and the basic UK TV like terrestrial package, and 3 other channels. And so one of them was always like NTV, and then one of them was Sky One, and then one of them was like the Family Channel or Eurosport, and it would change depending on who. So it was like we didn't have a full satellite system, but we had MTV, and we were like, "This is a cool music videos," and being like, we were the perfect age for the MTV thing. So and then the Sky One is the Simpsons channel, and Sky One was dog. Like everything except
Eurotrash.
It was just the worst stuff. Eurotrash was still stuck on was still Channel 4 in those days, though.
Yeah.
And still kind of interesting, and so that's just a bit of televisual history for Ireland. We're definitely doing the Irish Week this week.
I was imagining though, like as people were setting up that community satellite, just like a boy jumping over the border going, just like, on your stomachs, arms spread. It's like, where's that going?
That's something that could have actually happened as well.
Yeah. Oh, man.
What a weird country.
Yeah. Give us all your telly.
That's all you want, damn it.
But I mean, I'm noted out for minutes 12. Does anyone else have anything else they want to bring up about this minute or about Mask of the Phantasm in general?
I've only got one other thing about this minute. It's a minor little thing I thought was interesting. The way, Bruce advances on him at one point, and they advance on Bruce, guns drawn, and come out with "Say your prayers, sucker."
Yes.
And I was thinking, sucker only works when you're a cool blaxploitation hero.
Yeah,
you can't be saying that. That's weird.
Although maybe it's hearkening to, as we covered back in Batman at 89, the ads used to be on at the front of the video, and one of them was the trailer for "I'm gonna get you, sucker."
Yes,
it's all a callback.
You, sucker.
The thing that I was thinking watching this was it kind of just struck something in my head. It's like, is sucker something that people have ever actually said, or is it just a nice replacement for the other word that sounds like that? Sort of like how people say witch instead of the other word.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I know that we used to say sucker as a like for a while in the late 80s, and I think it was just coming from movies and stuff. But I think it is Black American slang, and it was definitely in those. Oh, maybe I just think it was in the blaxploitations movie because of "I'm gonna get you, sucker."
The only other thing I was going to say was Bruce's utility belt is really nice in this scene. It's just got those pouches are really well defined, and it just always looks really, really good. There's a couple of flashback episodes in the animated series where he's got that pouch utility belt, and it just I like it a lot. And when they eventually did give him a pouch utility belt in the later episodes, it didn't look as good.
Yeah, true.
That's it. Yeah,
it's like a bum bag.
A fanny pack, I guess.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Fanny pack.
No.
It means something very different to me.
Yeah. You can't say that.
Love my fanny pack. Yes, sir. Master I suppose we should mention too, there is like a nice little moment where Bruce, once he throws himself out of the way, he lands on top of that guard and just gives him a low polite
yes.
"Oh, excuse me," which again is like, that's early days Bruce, because Batman would just be like and just move on in that scenario. But if not,
I've written down part of the charm of the animated series is that it existed in the hallowed days before it was illegal for humor of any kind to exist in Batman.
How dare you cheapen Batman with comedy?
Yeah.
Well, that strikes me as a very Superman move, though, to be bumping into someone and just be like, "Oh, excuse me," like in the middle of this dire scenario, whereas Batman would just be like, again, he'd just be like, "Wait, out of there," like a shot, and doing something else. But yeah, he's not quite there. He's the dark, not quite at this point, I guess. So.
I like it. Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, thanks so much for coming on, guys, for Irish Week. I apologize to all the non-Irish listeners who were just like, "What?" for most of that.
Please make an Irish version of our theme music, someone listening, so we can use that as an intro and outro.
I'll have a
just like a tin whistle version, just like
I haven't heard the theme in so long. I'm just trying to think of it. What's the
or like a Shan Nose version of
yes.
Go on, let's hear it, Rob.
No.
What's the first line again?
There's a man who's not a bat. He's a man that fights crime or something.
I'm not going anywhere near this with my Shan.
Well, it's weird though, the theme tune to our own shows is like, what are the words of our theme tune?
Yeah.
Oh, well, on that note, we will head off again into the dark, dark night. Once more, one final time, would our wonderful guests like to promote anything they've got? Or it doesn't even have to be anything you're working on, just something you want people to know about. Rob, you can go first this time.
All-Star Super Pod, loads of great episodes, loads more coming up. We've got some funny reviews of Masters of the Universe coming up. Ooh. The Dolph Lundgren movie. We did an episode on the Steel movie with Shaquille O'Neal that I think everyone will love. Hey. And then lots of cool interviews with people who've written for both Batman and Superman the Animated Series. And we did a special Kevin Conroy episode that you can listen to as well. So lots of cool stuff there. And hopefully Dick Tracey Pod will be back eventually sometime.
It better be.
That's great.
And Austin, have you got anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, check out Bowfinger Minute. It's the collective project, the annual collective project done by the Movies by Minutes community. I'll be presenting a week of that somewhere in the mix there. And but it'll be, it's just all the different Movies by Minutes podcasts just jumping in and taking over for a week. And we're doing the 1999 surprisingly funny Bowfinger.
Interesting. I have not seen that in a very long time, so I'm excited to give that a listen and a rewatch as well. Better get hold of that, actually.
Yeah.
Well, check all of that out. And as always, find us on Facebook at the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave. Look us up on all the others, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of nonsense. And why not go to our network, Sleepy Charlie Media, on Patreon, where you can subscribe for a low price of $2 and get wonderful bonus episodes and all kinds of nonsense that we come up with because we're insane. We've lost our minds and we want to do more commentary tracks. We keep talking about doing this. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
So if you've got ideas for commentary tracks, let us know.
Appropriate as you're here, Rob. I think because we're debating whether we want to cover the Superman movies, but we're actually going like, should we do them as commentaries or as standalone episodes? Because the danger is if we do them as episodes, they could run for like 4 hours. Whereas at least with a commentary, as soon as the movie's over, it's like, okay, we have to stop kind of thing. But as yet to be decided.
I would say split the difference. There's 4 Superman movies. Do 2 as episodes and maybe the weird shit 3 and 4 you could do as commentaries.
We'll keep that in mind.
Good thinking.
And we will head off, departing into the night, into the darkness. And we'll be back again on Monday with more Bat-Minute and new exciting guests. Who will it be? I'm not telling you. You got to tune in to find out, suckers. Suckers, the lot of you. Come on, tune in on Monday. Bat-Mites.
Next time, like a dog chasing cars, he wouldn't know what to do with one if he... Oh, wait, he caught it. An incipient predator pounces on his prey, and we recognize an iconically crotchety constable along the way. Our vigilant debutante's DoorDash pursuit bears fruit, but what does fate have in store for that familiar Flatfoot? We're calling all cars to spectate a crushing blow for Bullock, Bat fans. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
I must have dop, still fit a bit